Good morning, brothers and sisters in Christ, and happy 23rd Sunday in Ordinary Time. So some years ago, I was living in an apartment last year of college with my roommates, and I invited a friend over to visit. So we had lunch, we had a nice visit, and then afterward, my friend left. So I ended up seeing that friend about a week later, and he was very grateful. Thanks for lunch, it was a great visit, let's stay in touch. And just as we were about to say goodbye, my friend said, hey, actually, there's one more thing. Do you have a couple minutes, Matt? I said, yeah, sure, whatever. And he said, hey, look, this is hard for me to say. I don't know exactly how to say it. I'm just going to say it. And I said, hey, don't worry. Yeah, whatever. And he said, okay. So when I entered your apartment last week, I couldn't help but notice that it was kind of a mess. There was stuff everywhere. It was kind of dirty. And I just want you to know that. And then he went on to say, I know you're older than your other roommates, and so maybe this is an opportunity for you to kind of, take the lead and kind of maybe, I don't know, create a cleaning schedule or just kind of start to put things in order, and you kind of set the tone that way. And then the last thing he said was, plus, he said, Matt, I know you already know this, but, they say, at least on a spiritual level, that what you see on the outside is usually a reflection of what's going on the inside. So if your apartment is kind of a mess, then maybe that means that something on the inside, like in your heart, isn't in the right place. And maybe there's something there that you need to take to prayer. So I just kind of leave that with you. Now, when my friend spoke to me in this way, I was cringing on the inside. It was very difficult to hear that. But if I were to be honest, I knew he was right. I mean, you just had to go in my apartment. It was obvious, right? It was a disaster. It was placed stuff everywhere, and it was a mess. And so I knew that he was coming to me with love. I knew that what he was saying was true and that he was trying to help me grow. And actually, I was really grateful that he said something, And I think all of us have had experiences like this. Someone we trust, it could be a family member, it could be a friend, comes to us and in a moment, they speak the truth. They speak the truth. And as hard as it is for us to hear, right, it stings. We know that they're doing it because they want to help us grow. Right? They're trying to help us. And at the end of the day, I think we're really grateful that they say something. So this is what Jesus is talking about in today's gospel. He says, well, how do you react? What do you do when your brother, he's not just talking about biological brothers and sisters. He could be your family member, could be a friend, someone you trust, right? Brother or sister in Christ. That this person sins against you. And I know the example I gave is the most serious example, right? A messy apartment. But I know that people can do things that do really hurt us. They can do things with their actions. They can say things, right? They can sin against us. And so Jesus is saying, well, what do you do in that situation? How do you respond to that? And he's saying, look, we need to go to that person. We need to talk to that person. We need to look him in the eyes. We need to speak to him face to face. We need to just say what happened and how what happened is affecting us. And we need to seek a solution. We need to look for reconciliation. But oftentimes, that's not how we respond. Someone does something against us, they hurt us, they offend us, and we just remain silent, and our hearts harden. And what do? We go over to our friends, we start talking, gossiping about that. Can you believe he did this to me? Can you believe she said that? Oh yeah, she definitely said that. And then we go on our social media, and what do? We start to make passive-aggressive little comments or things against that person to kind of, let them have it. That's oftentimes how we respond when someone comes to us trying to help us grow, But Jesus is saying, no, we can't do that. No, we got to go to the person. We got to speak to him face to face, together, in private, eye to eye. We got to speak to him heart to heart, and we got to seek to be reconciled with that person, right? So there's a wrong way and there's a right way to engage someone in these situations of sin. And I think back to that example. It would have been real easy for my friend to come into my apartment to see, wow, this place is a mess, and just lay into me. He could have said, hey, man, this place is disgusting. What the heck? What's wrong with you? Hey, step it up. Clean this place up. He could have really kind of laid into me, but he didn't do that. And when he spoke to me, he could have kind of danced around the issue. Oftentimes we do this, right? If we have something to say to someone, we're trying to help them grow or kind of correct them in some way or give them some advice. We basically say everything we could possibly say without actually saying what needs to be said, right? We kind of bounce around the issue. He didn't do that. He just said it. He said, look, I don't know how to say it, but, lots of humility, lots of charity. And he just kind of humbled himself and said, look, it's kind of a mess, So he just said it. And then on the other hand, the receiving end, I could have really used that moment where he came to me in trust and confidence to help me to really lay into him and to make him feel terrible, to lay a guilt trip. I could have said something like, whoa, buddy, are you serious? I invite you over to my house to have lunch with me, and this is all you got to say? That my apartment is a mess? I mean, come on. What kind of friend are you? I could have really laid into him in that moment and let him have it. Right? But no, if we're going to if someone comes to us like that with humility and charity, we got to be humble and charitable. We got to receive that with lots of love. I mean, don't just judge the guy. He's coming to you with, receive it well. Right? So it goes two ways if we're going to engage in this type of relationship, which Jesus is speaking about in the gospel today. And really, so guys, this is the challenge. I mean, think about it. When was the last time that you had an encounter like this? Right? Someone does you wrong. That as hard as it might be, you go to that person and you speak to that person face to face, heart to heart, eye to eye. When was the last time you did that? That's the challenge of today's gospel. And imagine if we could all do this. And I'm not the word. I mean, just imagine, for example, if in our families we could act in this way. Imagine husbands and wives beginning to speak to each other like this. Oh, hey, honey, what you said earlier today, you probably didn't mean it in this way, but it affected me and it actually hurt me. Can we talk about it? And so this is what's happening. This is how it affected me. Imagine if a husband and a wife could go to each other, not in front of the kids, not in front of other members of the family, but just one-on-one, trust and confidence. Imagine if parents could relate to their children in this way, right? For example, fathers and their sons. Imagine a father could pull his son aside and say, hey, son, I have something to talk to you about. Do you realize that what you did hurt your mother? Do you realize it affected her? Do you realize that what you said, son, it gave really bad example to your younger siblings? Hey, son, let's talk about that. Why'd you say that? And hey, I want to help you grow. And this is, I think, how. Imagine if a father would talk to his son in that way, instead of cutting him down in public, instead of just letting him have it, which is so often how we do it, huh? Gosh, guys, it would really change things. It would revolutionize things. Guys, we would be living the gospel. We would be growing in holiness, not alone, but together. We would be helping each other grow in holiness, to become more like Jesus, to live the message that Christ is sharing with us in the gospel today. And so let's go to Mother Mary and ask her to help us. Mother, please, help us to be humble. Help us to be charitable. Help us to have the courage to go to someone else when they've done us wrong and speak to them from the heart. Not out of pride, not out of a sense of woe is me, the victim, but out of a desire to really help that person grow. Help me when someone comes to me to be humble, to not assume the worst, not to judge him or her, but to receive it. And once again, to let that be an occasion for us to grow as brothers and sisters in Christ on this journey of holiness.